What's up, everyone? Welcome to the More Than Tattoos podcast. My name's Chris Powell. This is my co-host, Tim, and we're excited to be here with you guys this evening. Last episode, we touched a little bit on our journey, where we met, how we got started working together, some of the trials and tribulations of the beginning of that journey. And tonight, we're just going to follow up with some of that. Myself, I've been tattooing for 11 years, and there was a long period of time before things really took off for me, and it was about the same time I started working with Tim. I think that maybe a year prior to bringing him on, things really started to change for me. But we want to take you through some of that journey, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit more current stuff, because I'm sure you guys don't want to hear every single little piece of our lives, but I think there's a lot of value in that process, because I know that the space we're in today as tattooers, business owners, self-employed, whatever you have it, a lot of what we went through can be helpful, because not only are we tattooers, business owners, we're also fucking content creators,
right?
And marketers, because really the amount of tension that is being sought after, it really creates for a space where you have to put up to keep up, kind of thing.
Right, of course.
So I think there's a lot of value in what we went through. So maybe this episode and the next episode will be about that, and then we'll kind of break into a lot more relevant stuff. Maybe seek having some guests on. We got a few people that we've already talked to, but a lot of badasses that I want to talk to.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of successful people that could bring a lot of value to this space, to us, to you guys. But yeah, kind of circling back, I've been tattooing about 11 years now, and the first 5 of those years I learned a lot as a tattooer. I worked in 3 or 4 different shops. I had a different art style at the time. I focused a lot on like neo-traditional, not really traditional, but kind of in that realm of things, doing collar work, kind of breaking into like collar realism, but it was more of like a neo-believable is what I called it.
I was going to say, I feel like you've coined that term. It's been stuck with me.
Well, and I learned it from Andy Chambers. He tattoos out of Virginia. Well, he used to. I don't know if he does anymore, but he tattooed me at Hill City, and that's what he called it. And I was like, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, I'm definitely going to use that. So that's kind of what I was after. But time and time again, every evening, at the end of the workday, getting home to the family, getting the kiddo in bed, spending time with the wife, girlfriend at the time. But I always had this same question, and I think that this kind of feeds into the last topic we left off, or one of the last topics we left off on the previous episode, was kind of drifting, like kind of focused in that area. And time again, night after night, it was like, what am I missing? What's going on here? Like, what do I need to really elevate to the next level? Where I was at, I thought I was doing really good, but for some reason I couldn't shake every night. Like, what am I fucking missing,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember specifically Ink and the Clink. I know a lot of you guys have heard it. It's a show here in Ohio. It's more of a concert, I think, than a tattoo convention, but they have tattooers set up there, and it's a pretty dope show. But I spoke with Hippie there, Justin Sheltman. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who this guy is. I mean, he's a badass. He's one of my best friends, brother.
The homie, man.
The homie, and that's really the link that got me connected to associating with the right people. The power of association. I think that is so huge when you're feeling stuck. Like, who do you got to go to help fucking put you on, help build you up, encourage you? And I remember the first time I ever met him was at an Applebee's down in Kettering with a tattooer named Justin Holschlagel, and I was Holschlagel. And was with James from the shop I was working with at the time, and I remember seeing this dude, and and Hip will agree with me. He was, I don't even know how to describe it. I feel like Hip's very open about his recovery and where he's been at in his life, and I feel like I met him shortly after he got clean. Like he, pretty rough around the edges. I was too, but I specifically remember that time, and I didn't know at that point what that would lead to years later. I mean, 5 years down the road, but we spent maybe a week. Well, it was more than that. It was a short period of time working together. We worked in Huber Heights together at a shop called, I think at the time it was Gallery 202. It was in this fucking hole in the wall way back in this like rundown plaza in Huber Heights. And we spent like 2 weeks working there, and then he went on to work with the guy who owned the shop in Springfield. And but yeah, I say all that to say I ran into him at Ink and the Clink, and he kind of dropped hint that there was a shop being opened. It was going to be called, I don't know if he told me at the time, but what the name was, but it was who was opening the shop and who was going to be on the team, and didn't really think much of it. At the time, he didn't say that they were hiring, but little do I know, 3 months later, Matt reached out, and just said, "Hey, what's up?" Or hope you're having a good time. Hope your life's blessed. That's really all he said, and I was like, "Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It means a lot. You reaching out," and then he didn't respond. I was like, "Fuck." Well, I know he's opening a shop, but he didn't hit me back. But I didn't really like provoke a response, but so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna message him again, and I shot my shot, and that was the first time I really got to experience being around like legit badasses. I've been surrounded by good people and friends, family, good hearts, what I'm saying. I've been surrounded by that prior to, but really getting exposed to that mentorship, coaching, a whole room full of people who are like, I got something I got to prove to them, that was really where it began for me, and that was about 6 years ago, and that was the first time I really felt like, okay, I got to step my shit up, because really I'm like the lowest one on the totem pole here, as far as financially, as far as like network, clientele base, in a whole new city, 45 minutes away from where I've worked basically my whole life, or the past,
good portion of it.
The past few years of my career. But that was the first time I really felt the power of association, and immediately, like, I felt like that question was answered. Like, what am I missing? And it was that, And that's why I think that having that solid group of people to connect with is so powerful. And I know you experienced that feeling getting brought onto the team, I'm sure. But
I mean, it was it's funny the way that you kind of, I don't want to say that you built it up, because it was obviously monumental for a lot of reasons. It was clearly the thing that really started getting the gears turning for you. But you had been in shops for a while and around different, spaces of the tattoo world for a while. And here I am, I had never really been in a tattoo shop, before, but littered with tattoos, never been in a tattoo shop, except for one time because I got my nose pierced. But it was just like, I went from working in a factory where no one gives a shit about you at all to now working with a ton of badasses where I couldn't even tell you what a badass is in the tattoo world. I'd be like, oh, that's a cool tattoo, versus now I know how to define a good tattoo between a bad one, but
there was zero standards there.
Yeah, actually zero. And it's funny that I even got a shot because I didn't know. I remember I called a machine a gun, which that's a simple mistake that if you're not really in the industry, you just don't know better. But the more you know.
Pew, pew.
Don't call it a gun. But I did, and I was just super inexperienced with tattoos altogether, but I was also super heavily unexperienced with like people that gave a fuck, like really gave a fuck about what they were doing at a point of struggle, because I feel like you always see people that do good, like badasses, right? Like, man, he's fucking incredible with what he does. There's no way he stresses. Can't worry about shit. And then I get in having stressed and worried my whole life, only to find out like they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it with a really strong intent because they've got something they're chasing really hard, but they're all chasing it together. It's like their I don't know, just intent was really strong, and I never experienced that before. It's just funny that I came into the tattoo world starting at that place when I could have been so many other places. And
well, and I think that's a great example of the power association, because you could have got into any shop, but to go from zero experience to, in less than a year, I feel like you're up to speed. You're already putting out content. You're jumping in emails. You're messaging clients. You're booking consultations. You're basically managing a tattoo business. But I guarantee you that would have been a lot tougher if you wasn't surrounded by the same folks. Would you agree?
Absolutely. For sure. Because, when I was working at Aisle 9, obviously I was working for you, but at Aisle 9, there was just like, obviously I'd ask you a lot of questions. I'm running your business, but there was just like little bubbles of information all over that shop. No matter what I was looking to, looking to ask questions, but Matt would always teach us things, like when he had an opportunity to do so. But we were all also teaching one another. Of course, I couldn't really capitalize on a lot of the artistic things at that time, which you guys talk about between artists and stuff, like how to get better, what other people are doing to step up designs or techniques and stuff. But giving a fuck about your clients was huge for me when I got there, because, like I said, working in a factory, you don't have to get shit about who's fucking buying this cat food, because I'm just throwing it in this tote, and much less, I don't really have to give that much of a shit about my coworkers either, or my leaders. Right. So like the whole system was just destroyed for me. And I think that a lot of people working normal jobs right now could stand to hear that there are environments. Funny enough, it's a tattoo world too, because you'd always think they're just a bunch of pirates. Don't give a fuck. I'm just like trying to get my fucking bag and get out of here, go do my drugs. But there's, there is a way to have an environment where you can, I'm sure, work a factory job and actually still give a fuck about your coworkers or your leadership. But I certainly had never experienced that until I had got in with the right people, because and I say in with the right people because, like we just said, I could have gotten in any shop, but it had to be this one for me to get all the stuff out of it that I think that I needed, to do what maybe I was intended to do. Sure. Don't know if like fate is really a thing or not, but there was definitely a lot of, it was felt serendipitous that I was there. And I think I said this on the last episode too, that I think being around those people, I'm not sure that it was that I was working at the shop with them. Of course, they're trying to build everyone up. It's like high intentional that if you're here, I'm going to try to help you. But those people were maybe just so, and I'm not trying to put anyone on a pedestal here, but they were really just such good people that I think they would have tried to help me if they had an opportunity with me, whether it be at the grocery store or if they just like met me at a coffee shop and now we're just like chatting it up, being friends, or if I was working alongside them at a tattoo shop. I just think their intent was so good, not only for themselves, but what they have going on around them, that they would have helped me regardless. So again, I think that the power of association goes beyond maybe looking for it at a workplace or in your family or friends. Of course, those things are good, but like finding people with really good intent, and I think that Aisle 9 had somehow magnetized to each other. They all really came together, and
It was a special place for sure.
Yeah.
Special place for sure. And, from the inside looking out, I felt like I was on top of the world,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But, and I really, circling back, I just want to touch on Hip just a little more. Justin Sheltman, Hip_81 on Instagram. Check him out if you don't already know. But he's a special motherfucker too. And really, everything that I have gotten from that point on, I have to contribute through him. He's he's the one that dropped the hint. He's the reason I sent that second message to Matt. Because Matt didn't hit me back. But I followed up with a, hey, I heard you were opening a shop. Got me an interview. And immediately, first conversations, boom, was already growing. Already growing, and it was our first time meeting. So I knew that I needed to be in this place. There was things that I needed to learn, things I needed to grab onto to take that to the next level. And it was an opportunity that was presented, but I was looking for it, and that's why I seen it. It wasn't luck. It was opportunity met with preparedness. And I gotta give it to Hip, and we talked about iron sharpening iron, and that dude has pushed me so many more times than he fucking knows, And I just want to take a quick second. I love you, brother. Keep fucking grinding it. You living the dream. You traveling the world with your wife. It's fucking awesome. And you are an inspiration to hundreds, thousands of people. And, it's fucking awesome, dude. Keep it up. But yeah, I mean, that's how I got introduced to Owl 9. And, going into a new area, going into a place where didn't know if I was going to have any clients following me, didn't know what that was going to look like, so I underplayed the shit out of my role. I was like, I don't know who, I don't think I have any clients that are going to come. I don't know what to expect, but I knew that I was going to try to, I set the bar here, but I was going to fucking shoot for here. And, I remember specifically the one thing Matt said it stuck out to me more than anything. It was like, man, you were the ace in my back pocket, and I didn't even know I needed. And I was just like, yeah, but that was what I was looking for. It was just to be in the right room, to be around the right people, because, if you're out in front, it's like you're trying to figure everything out on your own, I want to be walking behind someone who's already walked the minefield, who's already created, who's already got what I want, and it's fucking hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. So when you do run across it, have some discipline, have some student-esque about you. I know that's not the fucking right word, clearly, but
I think humility is good.
Humility, and just put that ego aside, because I could have easily been like, oh, fuck, I could have easily walked into that environment where I'm like, I'm already good, I
can't teach me shit. I already got it. I'm coming. Sure. I'm bringing you something right now.
For sure. And I try to approach everything in my life like that. Even this episode where I feel like, I could easily be like, oh, I got the proofs in the pudding. We could look at that, but come into this podcast with humility and trying to be a student through the process and learn from what we're doing,
Yeah.
But I don't know, it was an amazing experience, and Matt Klimmer, putting me in that shop and giving me the shop, it definitely did wonders. And now look, where we're taking things, and starting this podcast, creating new goals to podcast with artists, successful business owners all over the world. Maybe that wouldn't have been the case. But just putting ourselves in the right room, look what the possibilities that's come of it. And even recently kind of going through a season of feeling like I'm drifting in a rut, you know, to put myself around the right people again, you know, and try to seek out new help and new environments. I feel like I'm fucking ready. You know, I'm ready to coast with things and grow. But I don't know. That's really the main tangent, or the main thing I wanted to touch on here was just the power of association, and how good that really is. And you could tell, you know, we're shooting from the hip here, but I mean that's really life, ain't it? You know,
right? And for us, I love that you kind of touched on it again, because we said that this at the beginning of the whole podcast, that we don't want to be the guys. I'm not trying to be the dude, you know. Yeah. I don't want to be the one that has all the answers. So when you Google how to have a podcast or some shit like that, ChatGPT it's going to say stuff like pick a topic, you know your field. And to take it a step further, Grant Cardone would say to dominate your sector, right? You know, be the elite, but
10X Rule, it's a fucking good book.
It is a fucking good ass book,
good
you know.
Book.
And not to knock Grant Cardone at all, because his ideologies are really strong and extraordinarily beneficial, but I don't know that I am ready to just be the dude yet. You know, I'm not sure that I'm ready personally to be done being the student, because when I've done that a lot. In the moments where I feel like I stop being the student, my ego is at its highest peak every time. Like, no matter what I'm doing, no matter the conversation, the person I'm having that conversation with, or, you know, the topic or where I'm at in my life. But when I'm not being a student, my ego is at its highest point. So doing this podcast, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to be the fucking dude. I don't want to know that I have a specific field and like, you guys are going to watch this episode and fucking have answers immediately. So how do we start this podcast and like keep it going, right? I think it's been really interesting, you know, on the topic of being a student and staying a student. I've been the one going through and editing these, and I've never become so hyper aware of just like my communication and how I'm like speaking to people. I'm like, fuck, dude, you ramble a lot, you know.
I'm definitely not ready to be the guy.
Right, I'm for sure not ready, you know. So, I don't know. It's strange how, with that being said, like the whole remaining a student and being, you know, having humility and then I'm going through editing these, like, even though we've already talked about it, I'm not the dude, I'm going through, like, I should have had these done right. I should have been perfect on these episodes, but it's like, what the fuck is, you know?
I mean, that's the beauty of the journey,
mm-hmm.
You know, and that's how all our conversations usually go, you know, and it's, I don't know. I think that's going to be a very strong point of this podcast. I think that so many people talk about winning and how to win and what you need to do to win, but it's like, you know, I kind of want to talk about my fails and let you guys see the ugly foot, you know?
Right. All right. So now that we're back, like we were talking about, power of association. Now that we're here at Aisle 9, we're with the right people. We'll say, we could start with like my first day. What did my first day look like?
I don't even remember. Bro.
You don't remember it?
I don't.
Do you remember the first couple tattoos you did?
I don't. I was going to ask you this question, fool.
Got his ass.
I don't, honestly. No.
So the very first day was, and I feel so terrible that I can't remember her name. She was so sweet. It was the eyeball on the wrist. You tattooed her a couple times.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can see her face perfectly.
I did a ship on her forearm.
That's
too.
right.
Oh man, I can't think of her name, but I know who you're talking about.
We're gonna remember you, and we're gonna plug you on one of these episodes coming up, because so awesome. You know, I would love to just reach out and show some gratitude that she was the first person I was able to like be in the shop with, because I didn't fucking know shit. I felt so weird. The first time I was even at aisle 9, I thought it was like a fine dining restaurant. I was like in the wrong space, you know.
Like, is this a tattoo shop?
Right, and there's just people buzzing around, like staying busy, and like someone finally came up and was like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "I'm here to see Chris." And it felt weird even doing that because, like we touched on this already, I played baseball with you and shit, so it was weird going to like a fine dining restaurant tattoo shop and being like, "Can I see Chris? Can I talk to him?" Like, you know, but so that was the first tattoo, was that wrist eyeball. The second one was a tiger that you did on we're going back like 5 years now, so again I'm struggling on names, but
it starts with an L.
I can't remember.
Me
Sucks,
either.
But
I'm a recover. I've always been terrible at names, but I'm in recovery.
Yeah, recovering name forgetter. So that was the second one, and then again, not that I love anyone more than the other, but we've built a relationship with this person.
Zane.
No, I was actually there for quite a while with Zane, but Matt Van Fossen. Yeah,
the
the
guy
OG.
right there.
Yes,
Matt's
we
a
were.
brother.
I think you were working on his half sleeve, the first project you had started on him. You'd already done the carnation at the top. I think that was the carnation, right? It's the state flower.
Mm-hmm.
You'd already done the pocket watch with the chain going down, and you were working on the map. Was the I think it was my third day working with them. And
which, looking back at the content, it looks solid. Like some of the healed photos of that clock is like some of my favorite. I feel like that tattoo in general, I specifically remember the tricep layout and how the chain looks, and I felt like those photos were dope.
Mm-hmm. With like the what do you call it, like the little latch, or like whatever.
How big of a difference do you think it is taking photos of healed skin versus fresh skin?
Oh man, I think the game has changed a lot for tattooers, kind of content creators now too, because like so many fucking photographers are in the tattoo world now, as opposed to like 5 years ago. You had like fucking 5-6 people, unless you were going to like big conventions, like another one we went to, which I'm sure we'll get into, Vegas. Like, I think that was the first time that I'd ever seen someone else like with a video guy, like, because I know we had someone, Matt had a person hired on, but when I started working there, they were no longer there, so I was like, for a little while, the only video guy running around. And then we went to Vegas, and I saw another one. I was like, oh, fuck, he's got a camera guy, too. He must be crazy. Because I just had this perspective that, like, damn, if you're, like, taking a step in that direction to really just get a video guy for yourself and your own business, you've got to be doing something right? Yeah, I feel like the game has just changed a lot since then, because you got, like, polarizers and or CPLs, rather, and then you've got, like, the polarizing film. So now it's like kind of easy as long as you know how to set up your system right, like get it set up right, and then just take the photo and it's good. But definitely healed all day, because like fresh skin is just like super swollen and
oozy
and wet, right? And it's just super shiny. The bane of my existence back in the day was the million half sleeves you did, because the fucking shoulder is just so hard to get a good photo of it.
Tim's taking photos, and I'm like trying to position the light every way I can, stand in chairs and
dude,
shit.
that was the days. Those were the days for sure. In that little upstairs, trying to get the right lighting. But definitely healed skin for sure, because you just don't have to worry about glare. You could almost take them in a fucking dark room and they still look good. But now it's like this whole system of has to be all lights turned off, just the one light with the polarized film on it and stuff. So it's kind of a little easy, which is kind of why I was excited about this podcast, because I feel like content of tattoo stuff with those additions kind of took like the struggle of the equation out, because I would spend upwards of like 30-35 minutes sometimes with the client, just making them stand there when I know they don't want to, but I have to do the best at my job that I can while you've got the strength and endurance to keep standing there. Versus now, like I think I get photos in like fucking 5 minutes.
Photos and videos, and I'm moving them around and shit. So I remember, motherfuckers are lucky now. I remember the first like cool photos I seen of tattoos, and It was Yogi Barrett, John Barrett, I think is his name, but he goes by Yogi on Instagram, and he would do like the water, like soak it in water, and then he'd put the light at a certain point, and he would get like a good photo with like perfect highlights in the water in it, and it would just look fucking sick. And I remember talking with Hip and like trying to do that, but I like never worked perfect. You had to do like the right tattoo at the right place. And he would always do color, so I feel like color, maybe I'm not right here, but color is a little easier to photograph.
Absolutely. It just always looks way punchier on photos. And, like, when you do, I think contrast is a big thing in tattoos. So when you're working with colors, the contrast to human eye is way easier to detect because the simplicity of an eye is going to see red versus white and a green and be like, oh, there's contrast versus black and gray where you're trying to discern a value, which is not always so easy. You see it as like, oh, well, like skin tone is white and, black is black. You can describe it that way, but really understanding like blends and stuff like that. And when you add water to that and then you're trying to take a photo of it and it's super glary, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Color's way easier to take photos of, in my opinion anyway.
Yeah. So what do you feel like were some of the main, well, before we jump into like some of the struggles you had, or what would be like the first like big win you remember?
I think I gave myself my own win. It was this tattoo you did. It was on a client named Cody. It was like an eye with his daughter, him and his daughter, like in the photo, like in the iris of the eye. I did a video for that, and I thought that video was so sick. Looking back, I've gone back and watched that video now, and I'm like, I could do better, but it's still kind of dope. It's like I did some cool stuff, but I think when I made that video, I was like, okay, I know what the fuck I'm doing now. Like, I'm starting to really catch on. So maybe that was like a small win for me. I felt really good about that video in particular, but for sure, one of my major wins is when you finally liked one of the photos that I took.
Like online? Like
yeah.
Like,
no. Like I sent you photos and you were like, oh, those are actually dope.
Yeah.
Because it was stuff that, again, when I'd never been in a tattoo shop before, so me really like getting in and understanding some of these like negative things like to watch out for that I didn't know about before. Like there was one time you were like, nice trash can in the back. Or something like so now I'm just super cautious of
every
like,
photo to this day.
oh yeah, now it's just like no, I'm super particular about what's in the background and shit. Obviously it's a little bit easier at our shop now. Because when we were at aisle 9 it was like there was like
not much space,
no space at all, and there was always like 3 or 4 motherfuckers upstairs tattooing, plus like another 3 people downstairs. And it's a bunch of these like corridor or like small cubby.
Yeah, like if you think about like a normal house layout, maybe 2 rooms upstairs, living room downstairs, like a
kitchen.
Yeah, it's real sectioned off.
Yeah. So there just wasn't really a lot of good spots to take photos, but I think when that was ultimately the first real win I had, was when I finally got confirmation that I was doing a good job. Because I had never really like taken photos for first off a professional, and then second to that it was like of their artwork on top of like them already critiquing themselves hard enough. And you guys don't know how to take good photos. I know you don't, because your fucking photo albums are just littered with a million photos of the same tattoo.
100%. And I definitely contribute a lot of my early like client building to just like building relationships versus the goodness of
good
the content,
right?
You know.
But I even think that there was a lot starting out that I don't think that me doing photos for you really started churning those wheels or building up that the momentum. I would say maybe like a year, I feel like, because I've paid attention to your numbers and your analytics the whole time, you know. And we'd also built a website for you, which is, I think, crucial.
The website has been the biggest thing in my process that I think that has helped. It had several different areas, and we could touch on those. But the website was dope. That was a big thing for the business, for sure.
And it was interesting because I know it was a little bit of a struggle for me. And, you know, we knew what we were going to be talking about on this episode. So, of course, we spent some time that day, like, thinking, meditating on what we maybe talk about for the episode. But this is a thought I had earlier today, that in that space that I was at starting out with you, I was looking up just how to build up brands in general, just like not even a tattoo brand. I would try to find stuff like that, but there wasn't anything specific to tattooers at the time versus now. I feel like you could Google stuff and find things specific to a tattooer that would help. So I was just, little old me. I'd never built a brand myself. I'd never had like my own shit. And like I just said, I've never worked with another professional before, but I think trying to have conversations with you after doing research about what things we could do for your brand as a whole that maybe other tattooers aren't doing. Things that I think tattooers as a whole might be missing out on because they're just like thinking this little cone shape, like this is just what I do and I stay here. Which again, it was a little weird for me to get in that space, and it definitely wouldn't have come so easy if we hadn't had so many good conversations, whether it be at the shop or, long car rides home. We also had like really long hours at the shop on top of the car rides and stuff because there was a lot of nights.
Especially early on.
Yes. Funny story about, I'll tell that in a second before I, jump, but I don't think that getting into the space where I'm recommending things to do your business when I'm like coming from nothing would have been as easy had we not spent the time like communicating and building our relationship up and having really good conversations. Because I had to build a rapport, and I know that like that website, it was a big deal, and it still to this day is the biggest thing that is churning this business. Which is, it's difficult for me to say that because I would like to think that my content is the thing that's doing it, but the website and, the way that like algorithms work with like SEO and all that shit, that's really what the meat and potatoes is. But it was a new space getting in, trying to tell you what to do with your brand.
Well, and for me on my side of things, I seen this as kind of a clean slate. For me, being 5-6 years in, and working with a crew that already had systems implemented, an idea on how to do things, and the website being new territory for them, I seen it as kind of a clean slate. It was easy to get your opinion on things that you may have a view similar to a client, similar to someone who doesn't already have this idea of how things work. Being able to ask you questions, generate ideas, spark new thoughts, and step out of a box. You know what I'm saying? I think that really helped with that conversation because there was things we did with the website that, Matt or Hip are like, I don't think I would do that.
Right.
You're talking about putting pricing out before you talk to them. Like that's, like I wouldn't. I
know that was a big thing.
That was huge. That was huge, and I think that probably a vast majority of tattooers still don't do that. And I'm not saying go and do that. I'm not saying that go just put money on your website and just. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that for where I was, it made sense, and still to this day we still rock that way, But yeah, I don't mean to cut you off.
Well, a funny story about my first day working with you. I if I'm not mistaken, I think that did I ride with you my first day, or did I take up the Bronco? Because I was like borrowing my dad's Bronco to come up.
I know you brought the Bronco up to the interview for sure. I want to say you did drive it up for like the first 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Before we decided, like, hey, man, like, this Bronco's going to fucking fall apart on the highway.
I'm pretty sure that's, like, exactly what you said to me. Yes. Like, I don't know how many more times I can make it.
Right. So, obviously, we eventually end up carpooling, but First day, pulled up. I think your day started at 10,
Yeah.
same as they do now.
Yeah.
But we didn't leave, or I don't think your client left until like 1:30 in the morning. And, of course, we talked about this in the past episode. When you reached out to me and when I started, I was just gung-ho. Like, I have to make this work. This is the one opportunity I'm going to get. Already decided. Right. Yeah. Doesn't matter. I need minimal information. I'm down. But I didn't
actually just quit.
I did. I actually just did. But I didn't ask really any questions at all outside of, there were some things we talked about, like I had to go through and do my bloodborne pathogens and get my first aid and stuff. And then obviously I like went through and was studying like different tattooers and all this stuff, but I didn't ask hours.
Yeah, and my personality type, I'm not very detail oriented.
Yeah.
So I probably for sure didn't mention.
No. Yeah. So we get to like, 8, 9 o'clock and I'm like, all right, is this like, we wrapping it up sometime soon? I just don't know, but I'm not going to be the guy that's like fucking dipping, which I never have. Either, yeah, and I will say that that's not me tooting my own horn, but I know content creators are fucking antsy. I'm an antsy person, and I still stuck it out until like it was like 2 o'clock, and you were like, I guess I should have mentioned I worked some long hours, and I was like, you don't say. Fucking what, like 14 hours later or some shit like that. But
we were pulling days like that all the time in the beginning of 9, doing $1,200 days. And basically working 12-hour shifts. I think that was for about a year and a half until the conversation was had to basically double down on the rates and kind of looking at where some other shops were and what they were doing and how they were operating, what they were charging. And we were like, dude, we're fucking killing ourselves and charging half of what these people are charging.
Right.
And if we're looking at artwork, results, experience, we're right there. We're right on par. What are we, So then at that point, I think let off the gas pedal a little bit, realized that, we didn't need to hoe ourselves out so much, and was and was able to, to create some more time, buy back some of my time. But yeah, those fucking hours, and still to this day, we do have a couple days a week where, we might pull a 10, 12-hour shift, but I mean, it was like 5 nights a week.
Sure. Yeah, it was like an actual. It's hard to say what we're doing right now is like full time. It's really like hard.
Less than 30 hours a week, 25 hours a week, if that.
Right, but at the time, you're right. It was like 5 days a week, 12 hours, like average. Yeah. Plus the hour car ride there and back.
Fresh on that team, trying to prove something. Man.
Oh yeah.
Trying to show the dudes I'm here to fucking compete. I'm here to run with the best of them,
Well, I have a question for you now that we're like, since we're kind of here, what were some struggles you had with that? Because I know personally, like I was single almost like that whole time, I had seen people, but nothing like in my life that was pulling me into like staying focused at home. I could really just run rampant with like learning as much as I could and building your brand up, all this, that. But I know you had a family at home. So what kind of things do you think you did to help with that? To balance like fucking grinding it, like face to the grindstone, but still going home and trying to be present.
That's a tough one.
I know it's something that people deal with, because that's the thing that keeps people a lot of times from putting your face to the grindstone and making something happen. We've talked to a handful of people that I think really have it in them to achieve that level of success that they're wanting for themselves, but they have things like a family life and stuff, which can totally empathize with that. I can see why it would slow you down a bit, but there are definitely other people that make it work. And I'm just curious about that, like what kind of things can be done. Or
that's tough. That is real tough. There's been a lot of times where things have maybe gotten rough at the house, maybe got, I I've definitely let work control a lot in the past. There's definitely plenty of times where Katie's like, "Hey, man, you need to fucking dial it back."
Mm-hmm.
Especially when when Katie first had Logan. Yeah, I was 19, 20 years old with the baby. Katie was taking time off. Postpartum's a real thing for sure.
Absolutely.
Dealing with being at home all day with a baby, needing your every breath, catching naps while the baby's napping for 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
If that.
Yeah, to where, like, clock hits 8, boom, she's calling me, like, you off? You done?
Right.
Like, get your ass home. And that was always tough. And then getting started out 9, Logan was around 5 years old, I believe. And it was tough still. Luckily, I just got a woman that, has always supported, has always been, seen how passionate I was about work and seen the potential that I have or that my tattooing career has. And I've always tried to make it about us and about the kids, and I'm building the future for us. It's not just to feed my own pocket and my own thing, and I'm going to go spend all my money I've blown a lot of money on my hobbies, but I've really tried to be a good father, a good husband as best I can. And that's always been the biggest battle, is like figuring out how to balance them. And as I grew, as the money grew, I've been able to buy back time, and it's been able to balance that scale a lot more. But I remember some of those early nights at 9, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, snowstorm. I'm in my little fucking white Zion XB, like going 5 miles per hour down the highway, like trying to stay on the fucking road, and just like, man, still had a girl love me when I got home, and just, I've always been grateful for that, because I know that it takes hard work to succeed. But I think that's just the sacrifice that has to be made. I think that, I don't know. It's a fucking tough question. It's a really tough question. But that out of everything has been the biggest battle. It's like shutting it off, having boundaries, being able to divide the two. But at the same time, I remember one thing I said when I was an apprentice. One thing that I said as an apprentice that I've always remembered, and that the guy who apprenticed me has always said, he's said this more than anything, is it's not a career, it's a lifestyle. It's just a way of being. It's not clock in, clock out, shut it off. Like, there's a lot to being self-employed, running your own business,
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been a battle. But again, I'm just grateful. Yeah, I'm just super grateful for the woman that's been put in my life, and it's just worked. But there's been a lot of times where I'm like, I promise I'll fucking cut it back. Right. Like, hey, I will dial it back. I'll create more boundary there. I see that I'm fucking up and put too much into this. I got time. Why, but just being aware of that, and being aware of, like, okay, I have some room to pull back, and not just being like, well, I fucking have to do it. You either like it or you don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
As a man, I've definitely have fallen on my sword and has seen where, okay, I need to draw the line here. But yeah, that's a great fucking question. So, not being here live, we just took a little break, a little stretcher, and I just had a few minutes to think on the question Tim just asked me, what was some of the biggest challenges, and I kind of broke down a few things that I thought was really it, but if I could sum all that up into one and really just take ownership, it would be patience. That's been the biggest struggle, just patience. And I think having a hard time dealing with patience led to feeling like I had to overcompensate with work. If I would just slow down, smell the roses, observe where I was at, life's good. But because I was so eager to move the needle, I let the lack of patience get in the way of things that really should have took priority. That's probably it.
That's strong, man.
I feel like that's a better answer than all the stuff. I was just like giving you the result of what the true cause was.
I think that's good, and that makes me think about something I kind of thought about the other day. In the last episode, we kind of touched on faith a little bit, and how you had spent time in the church, and there's something I think about from time to time, and it's when you pray for, say, like, dude, I just need strength in my life right now, or, man, I need patience. We've, I think, learned that when you do those things, you're really asking for an opportunity to express those feelings, or like an opportunity to build that up. So if you ask for strength, whether you're praying or you're really just like trying to manifest in your head, I don't think you're necessarily going to get strength immediately. You're going to get an opportunity to build strength. And I was just thinking on that earlier today, honestly, and what exactly that means to, when you kind of find yourself asking you those questions, because I've definitely asked myself those questions a lot over our relationship working together. It's not all just been like rainbows and unicorns and stuff, and I would hate for it to seem any other way, which is kind of why I asked you that question, because I know that was a struggle for you. Full transparency, I'm not just asking like fucking open-ended questions I don't know answers to all the time. I'm asking questions because I think the answer could be impactful, but a lot of people, I don't think, really know what they're asking for when they ask for those things, right? And what do you feel about that? Do you feel like that's a thing, that happens, is like when you ask for something, you're going to get an opportunity to gain it or to practice it, versus like, I'm just going to wake up and be patient all of a sudden or something like that, because we know that's not how it works. You have to work at those things. So I don't know. That was just a random thought I had. Do you feel like that's kind of what things work, how things work for you in your life with like manifesting and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I think anything you want to grow in. I've always said, and you've probably heard me say it dozens, if not 100 times, patience is the biggest lesson I've learned in tattooing. When I started tattooing, I couldn't finish a drawing to save my life. I'd get halfway through it. I'd be, but having to sit there and follow a tattoo all the way through, or wanting to hit my next goal but not getting there fast enough and being discontent and being frustrated, I definitely have seen Facebook videos where it's like, you ask God for patience, he gives you struggles in order to do exactly what you're saying, to build into that. Because I think that unless I want to dial my life way back and settle for less than what I've already succeeded in or I've achieved, I'm not magically just not going to have problems. The problems will get easier as I grow.
Right.
So I for sure agree with that. And, praying is one of those terms I've struggled with, because it's like what I mentioned last episode. When I hear the word Jesus, I think that, I picture Jesus versus the message. When you say pray, I automatically go back to like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep type shit, the type of prayer you say before you sit down to eat, but I think prayer really should be looked at in terms of, talking about who you want to be, or what you're wanting to achieve, or in terms of not asking that you bless me with certain items, but I am strong enough, or I am, in that sense, I guess, is what you're meaning, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, 100% for sure. And I think that I have been blessed with many opportunities to grow.
Right. And I think that should be the the silver lining for anyone that is like kind of in those thoughts and those experiences we were just talking about. Is like, dude, I'm fucking working 14 hours. I don't know what I'm missing. The silver lining there is that you are doing it, right? And I watched something, or I saw something the other day where it was like, I'm gonna fuck this up, but it's like anyone can wait, but not everyone can be patient, right? So you can like,
and try to break that down a little bit for me.
So I think what it means to say that everyone can wait, but not everyone can be patient is it's going to feel like fucking hell if you're just waiting or feeling like you're waiting for the next thing. Or say you're like, say you're a partner who's like, you're in a relationship with someone that is, you feel like they're working too much or they're not spending enough time with you, for example, or if you feel like, I'm just trying to work all for us and, you're not seeing that. Patience will mend those heartaches of like going through the trials and tribulations, how long it takes to do something or how much effort it takes to do something versus the other person that's just waiting and not patient. You're still going to go through all that. You're still going to like take the time that it takes to get through something, but it's going to feel horrible as you're going through it.
So it's more of a state of mind.
Right.
Like waiting is, oh, fuck, I'm just sitting here until it happens to hit me. Versus patience, I'm going to stay diligent. I'm going to stay steadfast, work, and is that kind of...
Yeah. And I feel like that just hit me a different way because I can definitely relate to that a lot.
For sure.
And specifically in context to, I think, where we started, because I was not a patience person when we started working together, but I definitely, even now, these days, I struggle with patience real bad. But I know now, thankfully, that patience is the thing that's going to get me there safely, in one piece, right? Because I know that I'm going to hit my goals. John Maxwell talks about his like 5 swings or whatever. You just do 5 swings on that tree every single day. It's going to come down eventually. You're going to hit your goals, but how tired and exhausted do you want to get through that? How much? And when I say tired and exhausted, I think that you're going to get tired and exhausted regardless. But how much do you want to feel that? How much of that burden of waiting do you want to feel, or do you want to be patient? And just knowing that the things that you want in life are going to come to you versus like, oh, I fucking need it now. I'm just waiting on it.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a lot still.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and I think waiting versus patience sucks the joy right out of it too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, the king of content, Gary V, he's always hitting you with the love the process. You got to enjoy the process of doing something versus like the start of it, because that's romantic, right? Like, I just started this big thing. I'm doing this big thing. This is like the things coming up for me in my life. Like, here's my visions. And then there's also like the back end of it. It's like, well, I fucking did it. It's done now. Where are you at in the middle of that though? Are you loving it? Because we said this already, growth is only as long as you want it to be. And your growth is going to get stunted really fast when you don't love it, when you don't love the act of growing or like what it feels like to grow.
Yeah.
Despite it, growing pains.
Then it just becomes daunting. It's like, why am I even doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have felt that, And I've been in a season in my life where I've been really trying to figure out how to, I tell everyone I'm fucking boring. And I've been trying to work on becoming, more lively in the moment, doing stuff that seems fun. It's, but man, I just get so caught up in the fucking hustle, and it has affected a lot over the years. And kind of coming full circle here, I think when I was at Aisle 9, it was easy to work that much. You know, just because the people I was around, they helped bring fun to the hustle, you know. You know, even the shop, Thousand Oaks now, you know, when I'm in the shop and in the environment, everyone's hustling, you know, it's a good time. But then when I go home and try to work on things or like try to move the needle at home, you know, kind of by myself, it's not as, you know, it doesn't seem as exciting. You know, and that's one thing me and Katie have never really done a whole lot of. You know, we obviously we each have our own businesses. We have the shop. We kind of do that together. And when I say kind of, I guess the disconnect would be when we come home, we don't really talk about business. You know, even though I've tried to beat her over the head with that conversation for years, you know, it really, you know, doesn't really, it's not really a thing. And it's probably a good thing because I wouldn't let it die if it was a thing.
Someone's got to be your counterpart.
You know, I would drive that motherfucker home every night, and just with business, you know, and I'm glad that she doesn't, even though sometimes I wish there was a little more give and take there. But it's probably a good thing, and it's something that keeps me in check, you know, because I get so wrapped up in work that I don't have fun, you know. We've been talking about a trip to Disney, but on the inside, I'm like, fuck, I'm going to be gone a whole week. I need to get shit done. You know, what about this and shit that's really good? Like, I'll be fine. You know?
You can all, like, exactly, it's a flip of a coin. You could be just as excited. Yeah. Or you could be an equal amount of excited about the fact that you have to work hard to, like, prepare for this week versus, like, again, being daunted. Yeah. And it's so hard. It's such a weird concept to think that patience is the key there. Because you're like, well, like, what do you mean, Tim? Like, I'm being patient, and like, I feel like I'm even being smart when I'm worried about these things about that week that I'm going to take away to go to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever it is. But it's like the flip of a switch. You don't have to be stressed about it. You could be excited that you have to prepare, you know?
Well, and let's say worst case scenario here, because I think about this from time to time. Let's say we went on that Disney trip. It was a fucking awesome time. It's in the history books. Like, kids will remember it. We had a good time as a family. And let's say that following week, tragedy strikes and I'm gone. But on the flip side, let's say we didn't go to Disney. I stayed home, we worked, grinded up, saved money, and then still that following week, tragedy struck and I'm gone. How would I rather go out? You know, and you know, I'm gonna have to book that Disney trip after this fucking episode. You know.
Oh shit, man. Yeah.
But when I think about it like that, it's like, man, what's really more important? You know. Like, I got things set up for savings. I got, you know, like we got a home. We're good. You know, why is it so hard for me to shut that off and let loose and you know, so patience. It's the biggest lesson I've learned. It's the biggest thing that I have to work on. It's encompasses everything I do almost.
Pretty much everything, yeah.
So that's tough. It's tough, but kind of jumping back into some things at Aisle 9. You know, I think total we spent 3 years. No, it was about 2 years working together at Aisle 9, right? Yeah. And I had originally talked about opening some shops up in Columbus. That was going to be the spot I was trying to go to. Me and Matt, we talked about maybe another Aisle 9 up there. We told you there was all kinds of different possibilities, but you know, it's kind of funny that I kind of decided no, I didn't really want to do a shop just yet. Katie found a spot here in Springfield, and kind of had just her own booth in this pretty big building, you know. But I started a little side venture outside of tattooing. You know, it was a network marketing style business, and I knew we wanted to have another kid, so I started doing this business in hopes to generate some type of passive income to where, we have another kid, I could stay home and be stay-at-home dad. I thought that would have been dope. That ended up not fucking working, obviously. But I think that one of the biggest things that they had was this leadership course called Leadership Team Development. It was like a mobile university. And I learned a lot about myself in those 2 years. Really, I became a different person for a while, to the point where I was like, what the fuck am I wearing? I got business clothes on. I really was trying to really give it everything I had to kind of create this passive income, because I really wanted to stay home. Fucking hardest thing I ever did, dude. But I learned a lot, like I said, about myself during that process, through that course, through mentorship, coaches. I probably digested over 1,000 audios. I read over 20 books within a 2-year time. And, I've always said that I don't think I could be a shop owner. I don't think I could be the leader. I don't think I could be the person out front teaching people. But it was a blessing in disguise. I took that, and I think that really helped position me to bring some people on to the shop that we now have, Thousand Oaks. But that also required a lot of patience, because through that whole process, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I even doing this? Katie, too. She's like, why are you even doing it? I don't want a part of that. Why are you even doing that? But I'm glad that I gave it patience, because I learned a lot during that process on how to be a better leader. And I also really valued how much they cared about their wives and their spouses and the people in their lives and family. I seen that, and I was like, fuck, I want that. And they care about my family. Like, that's dope. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that I stuck it out the 2 years, because it really helped put me in the position to get the awesome crew we have now. Taya, Grace, Dylan, Becca. We got Darian Pearson on the team. We got Rachel, obviously my awesome wife Katie. But having a little bit more to give, I guess. But if I would have trusted my gut, and if I would have trusted Katie, I would have dipped out real quick, and I wouldn't have learned any of that. So even though I was like questioning it the whole time, I still stuck around. It ended up being a huge blessing in disguise. But I don't know. I think I was kind of from left field, but I thought that also the patience aspect of things really kind of there was a connection there, I guess. Mm-hmm. But
I mean, frankly, I'm very thankful that you went through it too, and patience of my own even, throughout that process, because my only job, I guess, quote unquote, when I got brought in was to build your brand up. And I know at that time we were trying to get really creative on how pretty much keep me employed and to keep the brand going while we were, trying to figure out these other business ventures. So there were definitely times where I know that your focus had shifted, right? So inevitably, I would feel like my job as your content creator, or I don't even know. I say that now because I feel like I've dialed into just doing that after all this time. But I feel like there was just so much that I was doing for you at the time that I don't even content, because I was doing messaging, I was doing like the content. Obviously, I'd built your website, so it was like I was touching everything except for the actual tattoo itself. But it had definitely slowed down for a while. So patience was like, man, do I like, because we had always talked about me finding different things to do, which I did. You know, there was definitely, I worked at a car shop doing content for them. I went out and did a couple weddings. I got into portraiture. All those things I think were super good for me too, because it gave me a different experience of business in the photography world outside of tattoos. But ultimately, I just found that I really liked working with one person, and more particular, working with you on this brand because of the kind of person you were. Probably not, not to completely credit Aisle 9 or maybe like getting around the right people, because that's huge. We literally already touched on that, but perhaps, the kind of person you were and like trying to shift into doing bigger things, like no, I'm not fucking playing small. I don't want to do that shit. I've lost my train of thought. Fuck.
Well, dude, it's been a long night.
It has been a long night, but I just got my thought back. So I had done a lot of different like jobs and stuff like that when I knew things were a little bit slower for us. So, which was stressing me out because I just don't fit that well with that. I really want to work closely with one person. I really like coming up with big ideas and fucking figuring out all the nit and grit and like what we do to make this idea happen or to build something up. But I definitely had to have patience through that because I was feeding into the brand that I felt like was starting to slow off a little bit because of other objectives and stuff like that. But again, like what I had said, I'm super thankful that you went through that too, because in that seemingly downtime that I had as like a content creator or a messenger, like you could almost say like a brand manager a little bit, like just an overall manager, because I was doing everything outside of, the tattoo itself. When I was in downtime for that, a lot of it was spent maybe not exactly doing all the things that you were doing, but I was digesting. That's where my intrigue was digesting all the material that you had at disposal. Like some of those speakers, man, they really did talk about things in a way that you don't hear every day, and much less. There's one audio in particular that has always stuck with me, and it goes hand in hand with what you just said and how much they actually really cared about their families and their wives in particular, because they would go up and have like full speeches with their wife. It was like this structured thing where both of them had put into this thing, and I don't know if I had ever seen that. Yeah. Again, I was single pretty much the whole time through us working together. So like that just wasn't really like a focal intent of mine.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, yo, two people can come together and like build something together. Like you can actually do that. You can like marry your business partner. That's a thing.
Katie was like, I am not getting up on that stage. Fuck you. I am not getting.
Which, I mean, like, we're clearly on a podcast right now, so maybe some could see that we're like good getting on a stage and talking with people. I'd fucking shit myself, like getting in front of all those people. But it was just like, I don't know, and like seeing that you could build something with someone else like that, and that like the content they were actually sharing was really super impactful.
It resonated with a lot of the principles that I
just had already.
Yeah.
It was just bolstering them, right?
Yeah.
Which you don't get like unless you're reading books or you have found these leaders that I guess you can like put your name, you can assign your name to it, or like, I'm on the same path as him because my morals align with his or hers in this case, So patience was hard during those periods where it felt slow. I felt like I was called to question a lot of stuff, but the thing that always brought me back is like I'm still working on being a better person. That's what, since day one, I think my goal, maybe not day one, because talking about getting into Aisle 9 and like getting around good people, I didn't even know that a goal of mine was to become a better person. Like really, like I'm going to think about it, like, I don't think that I've been as good of a person as I could have been because I'm being blessed now by these people that, like, don't even fucking know me. As a matter of fact, to take it a step further, I'm not even working for them. You know, Hip, for example, you know, he just, like, in certain ways would, like, validate me as a person despite I wasn't his employee. Like, he saw that I fucking existed, saw that I would do good work, commented on that, but he don't fucking owe me that, you know, for shit. He doesn't owe me anything. Small thing that I want to say about Hip that we talked about, and I told you this not too long ago, just like the reason why I never became a tattoo artist. And it was because at one time Hip was like, I need a fucking dude. I need a dude. I need me a Tim. That was always the joke at Aisle 9 when I came in. Again, not tooting my own horn. I didn't fucking start that joke. Everyone else did it. But he was like, I got to find me a fucking Tim, but they all want to be fucking tattooers. And I, in my head, I had never had artistic ability, like drawing or anything. Like, maybe when I was super young and I just like dabbled in it and shit like that. But I heard that and I was like, I better never look at fucking touching a machine, you know. I'm coming for that fucking job, boy. I'm going to start tattooing eventually. Shit's going to be dope. But, love you, Hip. It's okay. Yeah. But yeah, it was, you know, talking about your side excursion. Yeah. That I think kind of is a good segue into finding where we were at this new place. Because we did eventually move on into the shop that Katie had, which, by the way, it's hysterical that she was like just tattooing by herself in that building. Right. Because it's literally huge. Maybe not huge, but
it's pretty big for a one booth. I mean,
yeah, considering her booth's like 8 by 8 feet, you know, and like the whole building is like probably fucking at least 2,400 square feet, you know?
Yep, and literally nothing else in there.
Oh, nothing. No cabinets on the walls or outside of, I think
there was one room built in the back, Darian's room.
That's right. So there was Darian's room and then that one booth. Yeah. And then eventually got your booth in there and
did that for like a year. But yeah, I do think that talking about Thousand Oaks and the shop we're working at and basically bringing it to the present, some of that journey I think would make for a great follow-up to this episode. So we're gonna kind of bring it to the present time, fill you guys in all the way, and then we're gonna start shooting for guests and having people on. If you want to be a guest, or if you know anyone who would make for a great guest, fucking drop their names in here. Drop them in the comments. Let us know. Shoot us a message. But I think this would be a good place to cut it. I think we talked about a couple good things, the power of association and just patience. Those are two really solid things that the trying to master, in a sense, will help a lot, you know. And obviously, we're still on that journey. Real quick, I also wanted to let you guys know we're about to drop T-shirts real soon. So keep your eyes out. Obviously, any support we can get helps. We want to take this thing to the next level with guests traveling, and going and really bringing some hitters on here. But we could definitely use some support, you know. So we'll let you guys know how you can help. Greatly appreciate anything you guys are willing to give and to help keep this thing fucking running. So with that being said, I'm gonna hand it over to Tim, have him plug social media, and if there's anything that I missed that he wants to let you guys know. Yeah, but I appreciate you guys for showing up, and until next time.
Yeah. So one exciting thing is, of course, we do have merch coming very, very soon, but our Patreon is live. So for anyone that does want to support the show before you're able to get a cool shirt or hoodie or hat or something, hit that link in the description below. You know, anything helps, you know. And if you're fucking broke, you can still support. How? Hit that fucking sub button. Drop us a like, leave us a comment. These things really do tell the algorithms that we're using, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, that really tells those platforms that we're doing something right. And it also lets us know that you guys enjoy what we're doing. So,
other people.
Right. So, like I said, drop a like, subscribe to the channels, leave us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Those things are super, super free, like blatantly free, that you can do to support the show. For socials, you can find us on Instagram at More Than Tats, YouTube More Than Tattoos, same on Facebook. Really, I've done a couple searches myself, so if you just Google it, you're probably going to find the shit.
I know the IG name More Than Tats is kind of cringe.
Yeah, Tats is a little cringe, but you got to stick with the gram, Yeah. Someone took that shit. I don't know who took it. Some fucking account with like 3 followers on it. But, yeah, you can find Chris at Chris Powell Tattoos, not Chris P Tattoos. Yeah. Find me at Saul Good X, SAUL Good X on Instagram too. And yeah, I think that's about it for today's episode. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Very grateful to have this opportunity to spend with Chris and you guys too. But we'll catch you on the next episode of More Than Tattoos. Peace.